kitty, my poor old kitty. Hi everyone, Grey Power 60 here. Welcome to a Tea With Me Tuesday. I haven't been on in forever, and I want to welcome some of my new subscribers. Even though I haven't been on, I appreciate you looking at my videos, the past ones, and my creative ones, crafty ones, and some of the other videos. Most of you have seen my craft videos, but not too many of you know about my discussions earlier about being a caregiver for an elderly parent and how it affected me, what I was learning along the way. So I've done a couple of things, and then Tea With Me Tuesday has always been a time where I would chat with you about things I found out, I learned, how my day is going, how Mom and I are doing, and things like that. We are now using our good dishes. I have given my son needed some new dishes, and I said, here, you can have ours. We are now using our good ones. I've kept a couple of Corningware, which has always been my favorite because they're not very heavy. They wash well. You can put them in the microwave and things like that. So this one I think it belonged to my grandmother, although Mom likes to take credit for it. And it is Royal Albert Dimity Rose. And I remember when my grandmother bought this set. And I think it's a 12-piece set of everything. The only thing I haven't found was any bowls. Now, there may be some up in the cupboard that I haven't seen, but we've got small bread plates. They're smaller than that. There's smaller plates, small bread plates, a sandwich plate, and a big dinner plate. And then, of course, the teacups. And we have been using them because at this point in my life, we don't have company. Even before COVID, we don't have dinner guests. It's not like in my grandmother's day. Holidays were always, and many of you probably have the same thing going on. Where, sorry about that, I've got the microphone right here because I didn't want to put it on me because, well, let's see. Okay, I've got myself hooked up. Hopefully that won't create any noise when I put things down on the table. I'm sitting here with my old cat who is not well, but he's still eating. He sleeps a lot. Most cats do anyway, but anyway, I was saying about the dishes. They're going to waste. Selling them at this point is not an option. I don't think there is a market for them. Maybe there is. I don't know. So we're using them, and I'm using my tea. Mom doesn't like using these. She has a mug. She likes it with her tea. Mom has a little bit, she's 90 now, and she's a little bit of the shakes. So she prefers the mug. Anything that's comfortable for Mom, that's what I do. I was watching, that show Super Nanny. She's British nanny, and she goes into a home where these extreme parents, their kids are screaming, their 3-year-old throwing a temper tantrum, hitting, screaming, biting. And I'm thinking, where is their head? I shouldn't be so critical, but I was a single mom and I raised 2 kids. I had no experience. I had no one to guide me. My mom worked. My grandmother looked after us growing up. The only thing I knew was to give love. So I started to read, and this is before internet. This is before you guys have everything today. Everything in the palm of your hands to answer your questions. And I remember when my kids were little, now I had to stay at home with my kids. This is when I was married and I had the 2 kids. My husband was at work and I looked after the 2 kids. And they're going to get tired. They need structure. Children need structure. If you don't have a routine, a daily routine of things that kids need, they need that even now during the pandemic especially. They need a routine, okay? And they have to know what it is. When you get up, these are the routines that you do. You don't leave them to fend for themselves. You teach them. I watched Super Nanny. I watched these women letting their kids scream, hit them, yell at them, and they do nothing. And it's, don't kick mommy. You shouldn't say that. Why are you having a conversation with a 3-4-year-old throwing a temper tantrum? Why are you having a conversation? I'm sorry. You do not have a conversation because they're way down here. You're up here intellectually, supposedly. I hope you're not on the same level. You know, my children, I remember once, and I may have said it in another video, once, my daughter, before we adopted my son, my daughter was 3. And I don't know where she saw this, where she heard it, or whatever. And she threw herself on the floor, kicking and screaming, because I don't remember. Whatever the reason was. Kicking and screaming. I looked at her like this. I just looked at her and watched her do this, which I thought was absolutely I had never seen a child do that. Not my family. I mean, maybe I had seen some kids, but she'd never done it before. And she was kicking her feet and screaming, and I just stood there and looked at her. I didn't say a word. I was astonished. Actually, I started to laugh. I started laughing, and I turned around so that she couldn't see me laughing. But I couldn't help it. It was so ridiculous. My child was throwing themselves on the floor. I didn't say a word. I just sat down on the she had thrown herself on the floor between our dining room and our living room on the carpeted area, and I just sat down at the table and I watched until she was finished or tired or whatever she was doing, and I waited. Then she got up, and I said, "Are you finished?" And she was quite stubborn and stomped her feet into her bedroom. And I left it alone. I did not go down to her level. I did not allow her to see me upset. I thought it was ridiculous. A child of mine throwing a temper tantrum. She never did it again. She saw me laugh at her, and she was upset because I laughed at her. So she got up, stomped, and went into her room. I have never had a timeout corner. I have never, ever believed that my children's bedroom is a punishment. Ever, ever. Because I believe that a child's bedroom is their oasis. It's their place. It's their private place. Now, maybe I created this because when they were little and I first divorced, I was I had a daycare center in my home, and their bedrooms were out of bounds for any of the daycare children that I looked after. If they didn't want to be where the kids were, their bedrooms were their place. And that I always believed was their sanctuary. Anything that was in their bedroom, the other kids were not allowed. Now, I had toys for my daycare kids. I had special places for them to nap and all of that. But my children's rooms, and they each had their own room, was their oasis. And I always believed that. They needed their privacy, and when they were upset, that's where they could go to scream, punch a pillow, which is what I taught them when they're upset. Punch a pillow, scream into the pillow, get angry at the pillow and try and calm down and, whatever. But I never had those temper tantrum things. My son was the opposite. My son was the little monkey. He was the one, like I say, you say don't touch. He'd just put his finger there. Mind you, he was only 2. I think he was only 2 at the time, 2 or 3. And then he'd slide and he'd be looking at you and you could see the impish glimmer in his eye as he pointed closer and closer and closer. And then he'd touch it, waiting for me to just go ballistic, of course. I told you not to touch it. And I would take his hand, tap it. Wasn't a slap, it was a tap. Please don't touch. And then instead of ignoring him and allowing him to go back to that because he wanted to see my reaction, I always changed my children's minds. I firmly believed when my kids were little that if there is something upsetting them, aside from my daughter's little throwing her on the floor temper tantrum, she'll probably laugh at me. She probably doesn't remember it. But anyway, I always believed that you need to turn the situation around, whatever it may be. If they're screaming, ranting, raving, whatever, I would always, I've never had a child scream and kick and do all of those things. Obviously, that's attention for love. That is attention. They want attention. They want, whether it's bad or good, it's bad. They don't care if they're being bad. They want your attention. I used to get up in the morning, my routine, we'll get back to that. My routine when I was home with my children, when I was married, I would get up in the morning early. My son always woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. He still to this day doesn't need an alarm. He says to himself, I'm getting up, he gets up. All his life, 6 o'clock in the morning, that child woke up. But then, of course, he went to bed at 7 or 6:37. For him, it was 6. He was an early bird. My daughter was usually up a little later. But he needed when he was little, his 12 hours sleep. He needed that sleep time. And he was not happy unless he was in his own bed. That was his thing. That was his little idiosyncrasy. But I always believed that they were mad or upset or angry, if they would fight or whatever, I would take them both. I'd hold them. Not tight, hold them and show them my love. I would play with them. So in the morning, I would get up have their breakfast, their clothes would be out if they were, at that time, of course, they were too little. I was out the night before for what they were going to wear the next day. Because whatever they wore the day before, I don't care how clean a child is, they still smell. They always had a bath every night before they went to bed because I believed that when they went to bed, nice and clean and fresh, a nice warm bath, all nice and cozy, in nice clean clothes and a nice clean bed, and have their, when they were babies, they'd have their milk before they went to sleep at night, or I'd read them a story. I always spent time with my kids. I don't see how the parents today can say, I'm so busy. You have one job when you're a mother, and that is to make sure that your children are fed, clothed, loved. Fed, clothed, loved. If they're loved, they're fed and they're clothed and they're in a nice home. I was just as busy as everybody. I raised 2 children alone. It wasn't easy. I had my difficult times, but when they were little, when my children were, I always changed their mind. But when I looked after my grandsons and they were having a meltdown, it was always change their attitude. If they're crying because they want something, show them something else. Do something else. I don't care if it's make them laugh. I don't care if it's hug them and tell them you love them, even though they're screaming and ranting and raving. You know, I know it sounds easy, but it is easy because you start when they're born, and you won't have a child screaming and ranting and raving. All of these children I see on all of these shows, they want one thing, and that's attention. What do you think? Am I wrong? Every child who screams and cries, they want love and attention. They want you. Where are you? I was a working mom. I raised 2 kids. By the time they were teens, of course, I had a handful. But when they were little, when I was home and they were little, I didn't have any trouble with my 2 kids. I was very, very lucky. They were healthy, but they had vitamins. They had their vitamins every day. They had their food every day. They had good food every day. They were bathed every day, washed their hair. There's nothing worse than the smell of a kid's hair when he's been playing all day, because they sweat, and that's something I never liked the smell of. Newborn's different. Newborn smell I love, but as the kids are 3 years old and playing outside or playing around the house and running around and they're sweaty, they've put food in their hair, time for a bath. And bath time was always a fun time because I never left them alone in the tub to go off to do whatever. Whatever was done, dishes, everything clean, done, before they went and had their bath. And we'd play. And I'd spend time. These kids want your time. I don't have time. Give me a break. You shouldn't have children if you don't have time to look after them. That's all I can say. I'm being nasty, but that's just the way it is. If you don't have time for your children, you shouldn't have them. I'm too busy. Well, then you shouldn't have children. I have heard it, and from all of my daughter's generation and my niece's generation, I'm so busy, I'm so tired, I don't have time. Something's got to give. What is it? What are you going to give? Don't go get your nails done. Don't go get your hair done. Spend time with your kids. Take them with you. Let them learn what it's like to be out in public. Let them learn what it's like to be at a restaurant. You want to go out for dinner, you don't feel like cooking? Take your children with you. Teach them how to behave. And if you're all going, oh my God, that's because you didn't start when they were newborn. That's because you didn't start when they were toddlers sitting in a high chair. I don't know what you guys use today, because high chairs are supposed to be, I don't know, dangerous, whatever. We had high chairs. And I never left my child alone in a high chair. I was always there. I always spent time with my kids, you know. I pride myself on the fact that between the ages of the time they're born till the time they go to school, they have my undivided attention. You know what? Dishes can wait. Laundry can wait. Ironing can wait. We used to do a lot of ironing. It's not like today where you don't have to iron half your clothes. But I'm sorry, if you're busy, it's because you've not prioritized your life. Priority number 1, you. Priority number 2, your children. Priority number 3, your husband. That's it. I'm sorry, husbands, you may disagree with me. And the only reason I put you first is because I put the kids first with you. You need to make sure you're healthy. Make sure you look after yourself. I am not talking about getting your nails done, going to a spa, shopping all afternoon, spending the whole day on the phone, playing on the computer, blah, blah, blah. That's not you time. You time is making sure you sleep well, your hygiene as well, your health as well, and that you have food to eat that is good for you, and that you dress properly so you don't get sick. That's all the me time I'm talking about. Today, the girls, they take their kids out. I've seen them 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. Duh! And you wonder why you've got a cranky child? And if you're saying to me right now, screaming at me, well, we like to go out. Well, go out at a decent time and get home and put those kids to bed. As long as they have good food, lots of sleep, and lots of love, you're not going to have a problem with your kids. And I blame all the parents. And I'm sorry, you're going to probably throw all kinds of nasty stuff down there. I don't care. I don't care at all. Because I know what I see. And what I see when I see these, I can't even watch them anymore. I watched a couple of episodes and thinking there might be some tricks that she does that I might, be interested in. No. No tricks. If your kid's throwing a temper tantrum, it's because he needs your attention. End of story. Attention, love. Love and attention are exactly the same thing. You give them love, you're giving them your attention. Buy them things, that's not love. Anyway, I've gone on in a rant, and I'm sorry I did, but I just couldn't help it. I saw that Super Nanny, and I'm thinking, you know what? During this pandemic, people are going crazy with their kids at home. Structure their time as they had when they were in school. If your kids are at home during the pandemic, there's quarantine, whatever the reason may be, if they're at home, and at the beginning, it's a little late now, right, to tell you this, but just stop and think about it. Yes, you're stressed, so are they. But if you give your love, your time, your attention, the little ones, the littler ones, if they've had that all along, when they reach 7 and 8 years old, you'll be able to offer them responsibilities. Allow them to become responsible for things, to be part of the house, to be part of the home, doing their laundry. You're saying, oh my God, 7 years old doing laundry? What's the big deal? Throw their clothes in, turn the knob, put the soap in. That's it. Wash is done. They can throw it into the dryer, press the button, start. That's it. Now they have the clothes that they want for the next day without screaming at mommy, I wanted to wear that, or I wanted to wear this. Now I know there's a problem with those of you who live in an apartment because you have to go downstairs, go wherever it is, go out of your home. But if you have a house and you have a washing machine, why not? Why not play with them? I played with my grandsons. I played with my own children too, but I played with my grandsons doing dishes. Sometimes my daughter was busy and had to rush off, and the, lunch dishes were left because they had to leave. And I said, no, I'll do them. I get the kids, scoot the chair up to the sink. We do the dishes together. Play in the bubbles. Let the water run. Who cares? Let them get wet. So what? They got some more clothes. There's a dryer downstairs. They have fun when you do that. Play in the water. Let's wash the dishes while we're playing with the water. These are so simple ideas. A lot of you, I've seen a lot of parents that are teaching their kids early different things. They're so anxious to have their children learn to eat ordinary food rather than pureed baby food. It's the same thing in the next step. Let them play in the water and do the dishes. Let them play in the water and do the laundry. There's nothing wrong with that. You're teaching them good skills so that when they're out on their own, they're not going to think, mommy will come and do it for me, or my girlfriend will do it for me. Whatever. Anyway, I have babbled long enough. Thanks for joining me today. Sorry I went into a rant, but I couldn't help it. Oh, my tea got cold. I am so passionate about when I see a child screaming and crying and the parents screaming at them back or whatever. You don't go down to their level, you know? And sometimes you need to talk quietly. My kids it used to drive them nuts. I think I've mentioned this in another video. Used to drive my kids when they were teenagers. I'd be up in my room, my sanctuary. We've had supper, dishes are done, they have their homework, they have their friends, they're doing whatever. I go up to my bedroom. My bedroom's my sanctuary. That was one place where they don't barge in. They either knock on the door, even if it's open, knock on the door. They used to scream, "Mom! Mom!" I never answered them. Or if I did, I went, "Yes? Mom! What do you want?" I never raised my voice. I did the first couple of times and realized that wasn't working. I'd have to get up, get out of my room. So as they're coming up the stairs, I'd be saying to them in a little bit louder, but not too loud a voice, "What did you want, honey? I heard you yelling for me, but you know, you don't have to yell. You can come up and talk to me." They got used to that. It took about a week. After that, there was no more screaming. If they wanted something, they'd come up. The only time they screamed is if something broke, some blood, whatever. Otherwise, don't scream. Come up, talk to me, ask me what you want to ask. I'll listen. Most of the time I said yes anyway. My 2 cents. Couldn't help it. Saw that and just Super Nanny and just I had to turn it off. It was like, what are you, idiots? That's all I could think of. I'm sorry. If you start young, if you love that baby from the time it's born, you swaddle it, you cuddle it, you love it and whatever, and then suddenly when it starts talking and walking and running around, you don't want nothing to do with it. Well, come on, you know, they don't stay babies. You got to go with them in the next step. And as long as you're giving them love and attention, they're not going to be throwing temper tantrums. Just my 2 cents. Thanks for joining me on this Tea With Me Tuesday. I'm sorry, it was a rant. What can I do? I'll probably be cutting out quite a bit of it because it's quite long, but I just get going and I can't stop. If you're too busy, cut something out. Sorry. I raised 2 kids alone. I was a working mom. I had to look for babysitters. I had to make sure my kids were fed, well fed. I had to make sure all of the things that a mother and father could do together. You're too tired, get your husband to do it. If you live alone, set your priorities. What are they? What are your priorities? Your priorities are your children. They come first. Get off your ass and look after your kids. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.